everybody. Welcome to a Friday night of CPS victims hunting for justice. That's what we are all doing. That's what we are all about. We've all been scorned. If you're here, it's because there's a reason for it. And it's that reason is that CPS has been in your life in one way or the other. And what we're trying to do is seek justice for us. And by seeking justice, I don't mean doing that in a physical, harmful way. I don't mean that in going out and slamming caseworkers and harming them in any way, because that does nothing but hurt. That hurts our movement. As much as all of us want to be angry towards them and cause destruction and violence, we can't do that, because that doesn't get a message across that we want to get across. We have been wronged by people, and you go to the antics of two wrongs don't make a right. So by going out there and trashing these people, that's not a way that we want to be seen as a movement. We want this movement to be built on dignity and our pride as parents, and the morals that we all share needs to be displayed in our actions. Going out there and causing mayhem is no way to display a message. I know we've seen plenty of riots and movements that move towards those actions, but at the end of the day, either they're remembered because of the destruction that they've caused, or they're not remembered at all. So we need to get together as a crew and as a unit and make it so that people remember that we are the parents in the United States of America, and we're the ones that deserve our children and the ones that have been stripped away of our rights to have children. This is very, very important, people, and I stress this, and I don't want to get into politics, and this is not what I'm doing this for, but this next election is very important to this movement. And I say this because we have just a few months to make decisions that can last us a 4-year duration. By that I mean picking a candidate that might be more apt to abolish CPS than not, picking a candidate who's going to look out for parental rights, picking a candidate that is willing to fight with us as parents side by side and go that distance with us. That's what we need to do in this next election. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us that have been wronged by CPS. There's a lot of us that want to get out there, and our voices need to be heard, because we've been shut in. We've been put in the closet for so long, because that's what they've done to us. They've put us away. They've packed us up in a closet. They've made it so that we don't have a voice. But you know what? That's what we're doing here. I'm sick of it. You are sick of it. We need to know. We need these people to know, and we need America to know what is being done to the parents in this country that have done nothing wrong. Or if something was done wrong, was it so severe that it warranted the death penalty to be imposed? Because that's what this termination of parental rights is nothing more than a death penalty. Now, we all need to start, and if you guys can help me with this, sending me emails, putting it in the chat here. We have the chat on the show. Anytime you guys want to ask questions or talk with us or whatever, we have the chat right to the side. I'll show you that right here. So we do pay attention to that. It'll come up right now. There it is. There's just one of me, so the little slugs and slow movements, it's just me doing this, so bear with me. We'll get bigger and better with the help and support of all you guys. But if you have questions, or you want to ask us something, or you want to say something, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll make sure that we address that. Absolutely. As always, I've got Herbert, the law enforcement guru, with me over here somewhere. Let me find him. Sorry, let me see where you are, Herbert. Herbert, where'd you go? He's here somewhere. Do I have you here, Herbert? There he is. Herbert, the law enforcement czar. Yes, czar. There he is. Herbert's my compadre in crime here. I guess we don't want to say compadre in crime, huh, Herbert? How are you doing tonight, Herbert?
Okay, how are you?
I'm all right. How's things in sunny Arizona? Because up here in Maine, it's awful cold and it's awful brisk. And
that's pretty. It went up to about 75 today in the valley.
Oh, I'm jealous of that 75. I'm jealous of it for sure. Herbert, this week we focused a lot on law enforcement and what they do and how they've intertwined themselves with CPS and their role, I guess, what you would say, in CPS when they come to your house and what they can do. And I guess for this week, what we've established is if you keep yourself nice, composed, be respectful. Ask them for a warrant. Ask them for, a warrant, a signed document of some type, or something from the court saying that they have the right to be there and to remove a child. But do this in a polite and dignified way. That way, you're not making a scene and causing yourself to look like an animal, because we know these social workers are monitoring everything we're doing. Is there anything else that you can say that when we see law enforcement to make sure that we act on, and how we behave and the behaviors of that?
Well, I've learned that there are times when judges don't actually write their signature on a document, but they'll give their clerks or whatever a stamp. That's supposed to be just as good, as long as it's the signature of the judge, even if it's on a stamp.
Right, and they call that rubber stamping, right? I believe that's the term for that. So, how do you feel about that?
About the rubber stamp?
Yeah.
Well, when the judge allows somebody to have their rubber stamp, they're leaving themselves wide open.
I mean, that's quite a it's quite a responsibility to hand over that signature, don't you think?
Exactly. So if the judge does that, it's binding.
Right, it's binding and it's legal and lawful, but it just says something to the. It says something to why, and I wonder what they're even thinking doing that, because once that rubber stamp gets into the hand of the agency, it's who knows what goes on with it from there. Like they're just able to use this thing at their will. And,
well, no,
and that's a little bit.
I'm not saying they're giving it to the agency. And CPS goes there. You see, so right. The clerk can stamp it. So it stays at the court.
Right. Do you know? I don't know, and this is something I don't know. Do you know how that courtroom procedure works when a warrant? You must know. We want to explain, maybe, if you could, maybe how a warrant is drawn up and what happens there. And I guess not. You're out of here. Herbert's gone. Herbert's traveling right now. But what we were talking about, guys, is how law enforcement, they come to your home. Look, you don't have to let CPS in your house. Do not let them in. That's the first and foremost thing that everybody needs to drill into their heads. Don't let them into your home. If they don't have a warrant, they don't have a signed judge's petition, they don't have any of that stuff, then you need to just avoid them completely. Don't allow them in. Here we go. We got Herbert back. Herbert, what I was just asking you was, do you know the procedure for drawing a warrant? The procedure of drawing a warrant. Like when you go get a warrant from a judge, what has to happen so that a judge can draw a warrant properly? Or for a CPS agent to draw a warrant from a judge? I'm assuming it would be the same as law enforcement somewhat, maybe?
For any warrants, they have to show due cause. Okay. There has to be a legitimate reason for why they want the judge to sign this warrant. And the judge reviews it and okays it or doesn't okay it. For example, a search warrant for a home. If the officer can show proof and reasonable beyond doubt that this individual has criminal activity going on, they got background on it, everything else, then the judge will sign the warrant. So CPS is obviously presenting some kind of documentation to show why they need to get into the house or take the child or whatever, and then the judge signs it.
All right. So, but without that, we don't have to let CPS in the house. We don't have to let the cops in the house. We don't have to abide by anything. As a matter of fact, we could actually tell the cops to have these people removed from our property, correct?
That's correct.
So these are things, people, that we need to instill, need to drill into everybody and allow them to know that we know our rights as individuals, as American citizens, that we do not have to we don't have to abide by what they're saying in their rules. If they don't have somebody else signing that thing, then we don't have to. But what about when Melissa, let me send you a new link, because what I do know is that the one from earlier didn't work, so I'm going to send you a new one right now. What we do know too is that there are times where CPS is falling short on helping people. And would you say Herbert, from what you've seen, that that CPS falling short is the fault of the police department from not investigating, or from the CPS services themselves? Because you sent me a lot of videos, and which we're going to show here in a minute. But do you feel like CPS or the police agencies are falling short? Who's falling short when there are not enough people coming to the rescue of the kids?
I would say CPS could be a combination, but I think it's more CPS because the police officer will respond immediately to calls.
Right. So if someone calls in, let's say someone calls in and it's a child endangerment situation, what's the protocol for the police department as far as someone calls in and says a little kid's running down the street naked? What do you do as a police officer?
We actually had that happen. There was a little kid.
What went on there?
There was a little kid in an apartment complex in the valley, in Phoenix Valley, that was walking around the apartment complex. He was like 2.5 years old. Somebody called, and the police arrived immediately.
Okay, and then what's the next move?
Then they tried to locate the parents.
Okay.
Turned out the kid went through a door that was slightly open. The parents didn't know it.
Oh wow, that's scary stuff. But that's it. You called CPS for those type incidents?
No, they returned the child to the parent.
All right. Police, so that's up to the discrepancy of the officer then, right?
No, police doesn't. They don't just call CPS. They try to get the appropriate parent to take care of the child.
So overall, then, the majority of the time, it's up to the discrepancy of the officer. Then,
yes.
That we let CPS know what's going on. The officer doesn't have to let CPS know that this has gone on. It's their discrepancy that they can call or not.
Yeah, discretion.
Discretion, yes, discretion. My bad on that word. All right. Well, Herbert, we got a couple of guests here tonight. We have our friend from the past here. We got Melissa Harris with us tonight. She's joining in to say hi from afar back. And then we also have our special guest, Ashley, tonight. She was here. I'm not sure where she is now. But Melissa, how have you been?
Oh, good. Just plugging away, working on stuff down here.
All right. Hey, Melissa, what do you hear about the police departments? What do you know about the police departments and CPS? What's your take on what you know about it, what you feel about it, and all of that?
Well, in the state of Alabama, the police department don't really assist as much with CPS as the horror stories I hear out of Tennessee. I'm hearing cops pulling people over and literally just taking the kids out of the vehicle. I got another case out of Arkansas where a child went into a Walmart to go pee. Child got in trouble while in Walmart. They turned around, took the kid, didn't tell the parent what they did with the kid, and the family's never been able to see the kid since, fight for the kid since. It's been going on a month, and we've been filing in court trying to get them even visitation to their kid.
Oh, wow.
So it depends on the state. Some states, think they need to be the enforcer for the department, and other states think about the same of the department as we do.
Right, and that's what me and Herbert have noticed, that there are some places where these police or sheriff's departments act as part of a CPS unit, or they follow their rules and their guidelines, and then they act accordingly, which I think is more of the way us American people, or we the people, think that should be. Like Herbert just said, a kid had escaped from the house because the sliding door was open. There's no reason to call CPS because mistakes happen. Right? Like, mistakes happen to people.
Right.
And the problem is...
Well, I kind of agree with what Texas is doing, where now, instead of making all these anonymous calls into the CPS, if you have a problem that a child, is wandering the street too late or something, the police have to actually assess whether it is or is not to the level that requires the department's interaction. Because a lot of these cops, they'll walk up to you like, hey, take the kid in the damn house. don't do it again. You know,
Right.
without involving the department. So I kind of like that.
So what do you think about that, Herbert?
I think that's pretty unique. But like Melissa said earlier, every state is different.
Right, but what do you feel about that taking resources away from the police department now? Because we know that 3.2 million calls were made previous year on people that about abuse and neglect. So now if the police department's getting overthrown with these anonymous calls about child abuse and neglect, now is this going to take away from the cops on the streets?
But if you take it away from the cops on the street, who's going to be the enforcer at a scene?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So, I mean, would this mean, Melissa, do you know if they have add more cops? Do they add more cops to their police departments? Do they have a different department?
And I know this from personal experience that there's certain things as to what they consider trigger words, trigger situations that require an immediate response. But most of the responses, it's when they have an available officer. You know, they'll have so many days to check on the situation, depending on the severity of the situation. Just like now in the state of Texas, CPS has to, I don't know if they use the same Miranda that the police department uses, but CPS now has to Mirandize people when they go out to investigate.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but that was the key word. Melissa, you said it. The key word was they're going to investigate and interrogate, so therefore they have to read the Miranda. If they're not going to investigate and interrogate, they don't have to read the Miranda.
Right. Yeah, the police department do the initial assessment. If it's bad enough for the department, when the department goes out, they Mirandize you, and they let you know that they're there to investigate a crime.
That's right.
The nice thing about I think about involving the police department, they see who the repetitive callers are that are making all these bogus allegations, and they get to go after them for criminal false allegation, because now you're calling a police department, not a privatized corporation.
Right, and that's what Herbert and I were talking about. It's funny that you bring that up, because our guest yesterday has his mother calls on him on a regular basis, it seems like. So that was our question was, I mean, how long do these people put up with that malarkey, and when do they stop? When is it too much? When is it enough to say, all right, this person's calling me too much, they're reporting on this person every other day, and they need to stop investigating these things? When is it too much, you know?
Well, and that's the other reason I think it's great that the police is taking over out in Texas with handling that, because the CPS, you can make 50 false allegations and they have no power or authority to do anything to stop you, other than to tell you they ain't going to pay attention to you, because they're not a legal criminal official. You know, they can't pursue the criminal action side of it for false allegation. Well, now that you've involved the police department, you now have the authority to go back and criminalize, brutalizing families.
And that's what it is. At what point is that actually harassment, right? At what point is it enough's enough to stop this with these families?
As long as it's making money, I don't think it'd ever be enough in their eyes.
Well, to go back to the grandma that was calling, I would suspect after so many times she calls and the police respond and finds the allegations to be unfounded, then it could fall into falsely reporting an incident.
Yeah.
So she could be charged for falsely reporting something that's really not happening, which is a crime.
Yeah, but the department don't really have the authority to pursue the legal action, and they won't.
Which department? The police department or the CPS?
CPS.
No. The lady was
the police
calling
department.
The police.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why. That's the only good thing that I think has come out of the police department kind of taking over the situation out in Texas. Now, if more states would wake up and do something like that, our system might be able to regain a little control over itself, because it's about as out of control as Biden's memory.
But if grandma keeps calling to CPS, then it's up to CPS if they want to respond or not.
Well, no. I mean, at some point, if the department sees call after call after call, they just start ignoring them. I know a situation right now where someone that should be investigated by the department isn't being investigated because they feel that all these people are making bogus calls. But I know where a 7-year-old up in Michigan is living alone, literally raising herself because her mom's out doing drugs, and no one will investigate it because they assume, because there's been so many calls about it, they assume that it's just bull, instead of actually looking to see that that girl actually needs help.
Well, who did they call, CPS or the police?
Well, because it's Michigan, you call CPS, you call their 800 number.
Well, why don't they just call the police?
The police just refer it over to the department, and the department won't do anything. At this point, they consider that child damaged goods, and they ain't interested.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there. That is totally unfortunate, but that's what happens for these kids. They get in the
That's
system.
in Michigan? You said that's Michigan?
Yep.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that, because I will call Michigan.
Yeah, because unfortunately, like I say, I know firsthand this little girl is stuck raising herself because her mommy's out doing cocaine every day. Her mommy's literally staying two, three cities away.
Do you know what
this
city
girl has no one to take care of her.
Do you know what city it's in Michigan?
Of course I do.
Tell me the city.
Gibraltar.
Say it again?
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar. Okay.
Write Gibraltar, like the Rock of Gibraltar.
Okay, write that down, Darren. I will speak to the police department there.
I mean, is that something that you would be? I mean, Melissa? Would that be something that you would like to see assisted and handled?
Well, honestly, that poor little girl. She needs help. I mean, she's 7 years old. She's having to raise herself, and her mother's out busy getting high and can give two craps less about the little girl. Mm-hmm. Their home's under foreclosure. Last I knew, there was no lights in the house. And I highly doubt Mom ever even goes home to feed the poor kid. Heck, I had to pay for the Christmas present so that little girl could even have a Christmas.
Right. Yay.
My involvement is to find out why there's no law enforcement involvement. That's it. I will call that police department. I don't know anything about the girl. All I'm going to do is ask them questions. If they get a call like that, do they respond? Do they not respond? I will give you an answer.
Sweet. That is excellent. Hey, guys, we got our guest in. Ashley's here. Ashley's got a heck of a story to tell us. We finally got her through all this technology stuff. Let's see if we can stay going with her. Hey, Ashley, how are you?
Hey, I'm so sorry. I can save all of your lives, but when a computer comes to computer, I'm like, which button do I need to push? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, technology is getting crazier. You know what we need is these kids to teach us how to work these computers.
I get my kids to do that. I'm like, I'm gonna need my here to do this. It's funny, I used to do that for my grandmother, right? I used to try to figure, when we had VHS and all that, and I don't know how to hook none of that up. I'm like, oh, I got it. It's no problem. Now I'm like, there's 17,000 chargers for Apple. Okay, it's a conspiracy.
Right.
So, I've been listening the whole time. I'm in Louisiana, and my story is exponentially corrupt. So I reported my uncle, who's a Third Circuit Court of Appeal judge here in Louisiana, for raping me at the age of 5 years old and sexually assaulting me until I was nearly 12. I reported him in July of 2022. I tried to report him in August of 2021, but 4 different agencies refused to take my report. He's on the governor's board. He is the sitting past president of the Judges Association, the family court, the former president of the juvenile Juvenile Judges Association. He sits on the CASA board, the DCFS board, the Child Support Enforcement board. His accolades are longer than both my legs put together. And retaliation was his game. The Attorney General, who is now our governor, just newly elected in January, was cited on every one of my motions and judgments. Now the name wasn't, it was just the address stuck up underneath like this one little area. I'm like, what is that address? Well, I had written the Attorney General the day before my children were taken and a week before they were taken about my uncle and how the investigation had not continued, and like they were lying to me. The investigators were lying to me. I had it on audio or whatever. Well, I didn't know at the time that he was presenting the Catholic Church, the diocese, the whole he was representing, the Attorney General was representing the Catholic diocese, not them, but yeah, they were the Catholic diocese, excuse me. About the sexual abuse charges with the Catholic diocese in Louisiana and all the sexual abuse charges. He was presenting that in front of my uncle. So at the time. And so I just learned that out recently because I just typed in his name, and he has all these, like a ton of cases that he actually was presenting at the Third Circuit Court of Appeal in front of my uncle. My uncle actually was noted on all of his cases. And his office said that they were advised not to investigate my case. It's just now my disabled son, they took him just a few days ago. Like, they just showed up. Not DCFS though, it was the police. They got him. They did Matthew has an anoxic brain injury from birth. He's got an IQ of 56. He doesn't understand anyone's ill intent. He doesn't he has issues with no short-term memory, legally blind in his right eye. He had a massive stroke at birth. He doesn't have the ability to perceive a lot of realities versus fiction versus nonfiction. They did a unlawful PEC, which is a physician's emergency certificate, because Matthew would say stuff like, I would rather kill myself than do the dishes. I would rather kill myself than switch the clothes over. Like, that's his way of saying, I don't want to do it. Okay. I'd rather shoot myself in the foot. I said, Matthew, you can't talk like that. I'm a nurse, and so you have to use your words differently, but he doesn't have short-term memory. Okay. So it's having to really over and repetitive, whatever. So he was I shut his internet off for him to clean his room, which is something I did pretty regular, because he could not focus on cleaning his room, and then his PS5 was in there. And so he got upset and called the neighbor, and the neighbor knew better. And the hospital refused to talk to me because I don't have an interdiction on him, which I didn't need an interdiction because his father, well, he's a POS. He's not involved in his life at all. He doesn't even know his birthday. And so I'm dumbfounded. The mental health hospital gets him in and is like, oh, he's got all these diagnoses. I'm like, why? Because this is like Medicaid fraud. You have an unlawful PEC. He doesn't have depression. No depression, no mental health history, zero, none. Like, this is legitimately how he talks. Or he'll own also like the identity of whoever's next to him. So like, if someone's struggling with say that their sexual identity, like they don't know if there's gay or they're straight. I'm just using that as an example. If he hears that in a group, he will all of a sudden start saying, oh, well, I don't know if I am either. Or if he sees a movie on a firefighter, next thing he knows, he wants to be a firefighter. And so Matthew's.
Wait, hold on, Ashley. So let's go back again because you unloaded a ton of information here. Let's go back to the police coming to your house to remove your son. What was the reasoning for coming to your house to remove your son?
Well, Matthew was on FaceTime with a friend and said that I would rather die than clean my room. And so because he said that, this kid down the street, which he does know Matthew, and he knows Matthew's disabled. But here's the brass tacks. I reported the state of Louisiana for waiver program fraud to CMS, Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. And about 2 days before they took Matthew, they opened an investigation again under the state of Louisiana for Medicaid. And it's not just them; it's the third-party vendor. I've been reporting to the state for 2 years. They've been stealing time off the waiver. We have something called a waiver program, so that a disabled person can stay in their home where they have a worker, they help them, whatever. Well, I'm a case manager. I'm a certified case manager. So I pulled the reports and it's like the employee worked 8.1 hours, and then Acumen logged in 8.9 hours. So it's all kinds of stuff, like it's retaliation, and they don't like that I called them out basically on it, but CMS actually opened an investigation because.
So what did the police say? Like, how did they remove him? Like, what did they say?
Well, he needs to go to the hospital because it's our responsibility if something happens, blah blah blah. I'm like, he does not need to go to the hospital. Like, I'm telling you, he doesn't need to. Well, this is they had some guy here that from Acadian. I'm like, he's not even qualified to determine if Matthew needs to go to a hospital or not. This is not a coroner. Like, and not just that, I'm his mom. Like, if he needed psychological intervention, like, I would be the first one to make sure that he got that because that's important. But it wasn't about that. It was because I shut his internet off. I was pissed off because I shut his internet off, and he was having a meltdown. He literally was having he's autistic as well. And so having autism and the brain injury, it's just a lot. And I don't have my other disabled son. My other three children were removed December 7th, 2022 with the former governor of Louisiana. His sister-in-law was the judge in the case who violated our civil rights. We weren't allowed in the first 4 or 5 hearings. And I say 4 or 5 because I've noticed on some of the documents that I was able to obtain because the actual court, the 21st ADC refuses to give us our transcripts. But I managed to get some of them. But her name is on some of them. She put on there that we were present in front of her. We've never even appeared in a court. We didn't get notice. Nothing. And being blackballed from not getting representation. I think that's my biggest frustration too. Like I called all these reports into like OCR and Office of Civil Rights. Well, I didn't realize the state's attorney is under the Attorney General. So what is one to do in my case where like he sits on every board there is, and then he has all these political connections all the way to the governor, and why is it,
It is similarities of my situation too. The Attorney General that was against me was all over the same things. But what can you do? I mean, in all reality, Melissa, what do you say in this when you have someone's involved in every aspect of your investigation, including the same person that has molested you as a child, has tried to bribe you? I mean, where does she go?
Yeah,
she can't go for help anywhere in Louisiana.
Well, I mean, one way to look at it is I'd turn around and blackmail the person and say, hey, either get my kid back or, I'll start running some newspaper articles.
I mean, they're already out there. Everybody knows. Like, I mean, my God, we ran. I went public in October because he is putting his hands in my child custody and child support case. He sits on this. We didn't get a public defender, right? We're supposed to have in a child abuse and neglect case. You're entitled to an indigent. We were indigent. You're entitled to a public defender. Okay. Well, they lied to us for 7 months, and I have it on every call and audio, every single one, saying they didn't have our file. Well, my uncle sits on the indigency board for the Louisiana State Bar. He's on the board of directors. I mean, like when I tell you, like,
I can't believe that he's allowed to stick his nose in your case the way he is, because that in itself is a conflict of interest.
Well, these are
putting him up for a huge thing.
It's twisted. The sad part is that I have another witness came forward, like, and I posted that on my TikTok. My ex-husband, actually, I was on the phone with him today, and I said, do you remember what I told you when we first got married about my uncle? He said, yeah, you did tell me about what happened. That was in 1994, okay, which is relevant because I didn't just, like, first of all, my sister was an eyewitness to some of the events. Me and my sister were eyewitness to what he did to his only daughter, who was my first cousin. Now, she's 3 years younger than me, and I was 5, okay, well, 4.5, 5 years old. So she was really young. It is difficult when you go to all of these agencies that have a responsibility to the citizens and to the country, but instead they're protecting a pedophile. And I don't understand. My brain does not work like that. Like, if you did, I don't care if it's been 20 years, 20 seconds, I still deserve justice for what he did. I mean, it wasn't just like, first of all, even if it was, I don't want to say, it's kind of like when people say, well, you have the good kind of cancer, okay? There's no good kind of cancer. That's just dumb. Don't say that to people, okay? Well, you were just molested. No, that there's no just anything. I was raped and I have sexually abused. At 5 years old, he was 25 years old. He was a grown man. Why are we shaming victims and rationalizing the behavior of a criminal because he has a black robe and a gavel? I mean, that doesn't compute to me. Like, and he's been in front of the ethics board multiple times, and like that should show you, like, well, number one, he's got issues with honesty, and he's got issues with ethics, and so no one's like thought to themselves, like, why is he asking us to go through all these measures? Like, I mean, when I tell you that his brother was sat as the executive assistant to our former governor, John Bell Edwards, over our coastal water program. He was the former secretary of the Department of Transportation, and his wife works at the 21st ADC, where the sister-in-law of the governor worked. And then, of course, their nephew, Bobby Bradbury, works as a detective for Judge Blair Edwards' husband, Daniel, which is the brother of the former governor. Like, when I tell you the nepotism is like, I know the case backwards and forwards, and I live here, but like, it's illegal by law. The nepotism is illegal. The problem is that there's no one to enforce that. Like, when you bring that to the attention of someone, where is the enforcer of the law? No one's enforcing the laws.
Technically, that'd be your Department of Justice, your FBI, and all your higher levels that are higher than just state. But they turn a blind eye to all of it.
Yep, and the FBI said that they had to stand down. They were told to stand down. When I tell you, I record everything. Like I said, I was falsely arrested. I've never been in trouble a day in my life. I didn't even have a speeding ticket. I had one speeding ticket, and I was going to a hospice patient who was dying. So that got corrected. But no, never broken a law in my life, nothing. They had me set up, the DCFS workers, on the discovery shows. They're texting back and forth to one another. How can we get her up to Monroe? Then, bonus, the screening council to the Louisiana Disciplinary Council for attorneys, when you report them for disciplinary issues, her mom is the neighbor of the foster mother who abused my daughter, who, by the way, was a felon.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And she was a felon. The woman that Peyton was placed with, she was on the government watch list. She's not supposed to have any type of payments from the government at all. She did permanent damage to my little girl's arm. She burned and blistered her hand. She must have held her hand under something really hot. And there was bruises on her pubic bone. And Peyton's Down syndrome and autism. She can't tell me. Like, she saw a picture of her one time by accident, and because I didn't know she was watching, and she flipped out. Like, she hurt, and she was pointing to her arm. And like, I really underestimate that girl. It's
it's very sad when they mess with handicapped kids in general.
It's all my children. I have three six kids with 3 special needs children.
One of my attorneys that represents me in a few cases, he's a federally recognized attorney. Actually, he loves suing the department. He loves suing police. Judges are hard to sue just because they got so much immunity, but he's certainly willing to give it hell.
Well,
but
our judge won't have
he is actually currently representing a family of a Down syndrome kid, where all the Down syndrome kids got together for this little convention down at a hospital where they was trying to teach them a skill trade. And one of the ladies, she was a resident or something, actually molested a girl in a back room. And it took 4 months to be able to get to the bottom of it, because the Down syndrome kids really can't tell you. And it took 4 months of counseling to find it out. And now he's got a big suit against University of Alabama over it.
Well, my judge did me a favor. She testified from the bench. And so, because she was a complaining witness, that's not covered under immunity. Sorry. See, my mom and my grandmother were paralegals for 30 years. And because I've been going through this bullshit for the last 19 months, I have literally studied the entire civil code of the whole civil code of procedure for this.
Can I ask which region of Louisiana you're in? Which parish?
I'm in Livingston Parish.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm in Southern Alabama, and I go through Louisiana all the time, so I'm very familiar.
A long time ago.
Yeah, I used to go to Bastrop on a weekly basis. So
That's where they took Peyton. They took Peyton, and this is another issue. How about this? Found out that we didn't have an ombudsman for DCFS, right, for children. We had a ombudsman for this. So last year they like, well, we're gonna get. How about everybody needs to get the red flags up. The Methodist Children's Home, which by the way, this is a countrywide. I did not know these people are like literally selling kids. Okay, they not only do they pay
Catholic Charities too.
This is called the Methodist Children's Home. How about they're our ombudsman, but yet they're getting paid millions of dollars from the state for foster care, and they were supposed to have vetted this woman, right? Allegedly. And so like it is, first of all, that's not legal. You can't, that's completely unethical. An ombudsman has to be a neutral party, 100% neutral. You can't be a neutral party if you're receiving millions of dollars from the state. You tell me who, when they're reviewing a case, you think they're going to compromise $17 million a year or $30 million a year? Of
course not.
No, they're not. And whatever they're told to do, that's what they're going to do. That's why I don't know who. Well, this is the kind of stuff that and see, listen, I'm about ethics, and it's about, if you want to break the law, you can do it, but don't use my kid's name, don't use their diagnosis, don't use their date of birth. Don't be a part of. Don't let that be a part of my life. They screwed up when they started involving my children with it started with my daughter's education, not giving her one, falsifying IEPs and things like that, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I mean, I lost my First Amendment right for 3.5 years. I couldn't even tell the principal. They were zipping my daughter up in a body bag, and abusing her. And they've ruined every relationship. We just got out of the hospital, and you know what they asked me, like when I get there, well, are you her mom or are you the foster mom? Well, first of all, that shouldn't even be in her chart, because that case was like, and to sit there and see like how the cases was presented when there was zero evidence, no evidence. They didn't call the detective, the trained detective who actually closed the case out, right? Because he found that my other disabled son was lying, which I already knew because he told me and his brother that. But didn't pull the hair follicle of my daughter's father, which was clean. I mean, like, there was so many pieces of evidence that she didn't, like, why would you not question these key members? No, we're gonna pull in other officers from something else. Like, no, because their dad does. My second husband's, he does struggle with addiction. He's sober right now, but like, it's that is part of his history. But like, they just use it as literally a window. That's all they use it for, because it was about me. It was never about him. And to see all the pieces that have come together, and just to see like the amount of the corruption, and you know, the sad part is all they would have to do is investigate, like pull phone records and do the things that you're supposed to do. Why would you not want justice for something like this? Why would you allow this to happen to anybody? But they've submarined my whole life. They froze my daughter's Social Security. They cut off her Medicaid. Now they're trying to cut off I have a mass in my throat from where I had cancer before. I'm supposed to see a surgical oncologist next week, and then another oncologist. And now they're trying to like shut my insurance off. Like,
Wow. I mean, this is just so crazy. The amount of corruption and the amount of, every place that you turn, there's no one that can help you. I mean, because the power position that your uncle's in. I mean, Herbert, what do you have for a law enforcement perspective? You have a poor girl that's been molested. She's being harassed by the government to the fullest degree. I mean, what the hell is she supposed to do, man? He's out. He didn't even want to answer that question. I don't even know where you go, where everybody is so entangled in this thing. Melissa, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts is Hoc Pro VJ. It's the only way she's going to get fair treatment is she's going to have to bring in someone from an outside state in, because they won't be afraid to have their their license sanctioned as someone in the state.
Because I'm only going to buy some ginger ale and some saltine crackers anyway to unsick it, and also
I mean, I
So you're thinking that she needs to get someone from another state to come in and represent her somehow?
I've tried.
Well, actually, I got an attorney over here in Alabama named Richard. He's actually licensed out of Louisiana. Because years ago he used to practice in Louisiana when he lived over that way. He don't live over that way no more, but he's still licensed, and he goes there occasionally. And I got a federal attorney.
I need a federal attorney. We cannot be able to have this in district court. It's going to have to go to federal court because, like, and I've written up almost my entire 1983 civil case. It's taken me well over a year. Like, when I tell you, like, I'm either every lawyer's worst nightmare or every lawyer's best dream because I have every piece of evidence to support everything that they need, like everything.
Same here in my case. I have every recording, everything.
Yeah.
And they hate me for
and that's important.
Yeah, they do. They do hate you for it. They get how about they just sent DCFS to my house again last week from three parishes away. Why? Well, Livingston Parish doesn't want to deal with you anymore. Oh, you don't say, huh? Well, that's because I busted their asses. Falsifying documentation, fabricating things. I mean, I'm just making it up. Completely just pulling it out of the air.
You're gang stalked too, right? They gang stalk you all the time, right, Ashley?
They followed me. They were following me to my medical appointments in Baton Rouge. Me and my kids were literally running for the entire weekend. We could not even come home. Like what is wrong with people? Like it is mindless.
It's everywhere. It's not. People think that you're crazy, but you're not crazy. This is real. This is the reality of what they do and how this works. My situation. Every time we'd go to visits, you would have nails in the tire. The exhaust falls off the car. All of these things were happening, and making it so that you couldn't make to the visits, so that you look bad upon them for not going to your child's visits or whatever. I mean, this stuff happens, and people think that you're crazy.
Hey,
they're like, oh, this.
If you click the button for the private chat, I put my federal attorney's personal cell phone. You can text him, and he will give you as much time as you need. He will listen to everything. He's a wonderful person, and if you need his help, he's willing to help. He's not it's not like he's $1 million attorney, blah blah blah. No, he's been doing a lot of into other state cases and doing them for pennies on the dollar, and even having to wait to get paid the pennies.
Well, I can tell you this: that my case is probably worth a fortune with what they did. If I showed you pictures of what they did to my daughter,
I've seen them. It's awful.
They strangled her. They burned her.
My daughter had to have brain surgery after being in the department because they literally beat her head in a psych ward so bad that it caused an aneurysm to rupture.
My son's in a facility. They put my son in a facility. He doesn't have the mental capacity to even Then they made him sign a form saying he wouldn't speak to any of his family members.
What?
He doesn't understand. That's not fucking legal. He's not cognitively, he's got the mentality of an 8-year-old. Do you understand what you're doing is illegal? Why are these people not being arrested? Why?
This is what we need. We need them. We need this heard.
He has not been home in over a week. This is wrong.
It is. And trust me,
leave me alone. I gotta understand. It's because I'm barking up the right tree, clearly. Because,
of course.
I mean, if you know what, if the shoe fits, you can wear it. If you were involved with it, and apparently the stuff that I'm saying and the evidence that I'm showing, they don't like it too well. Well, you know what? I've been reporting the stuff from the third-party vendor for 2 years, and see, with the waiver program, it's use it or lose it. So how it works is, for a 3-month period, I'm just going to throw a number out. Say they give you $30,000 for a patient. Say, here's $30,000. You can use it or lose it. So if the patient only uses $15,000 of that, then the state gets to keep the other 15. Yes, and the third-party vendor. So guess what they started doing? They got a YouTube thing together and said, if you work for if you're a relative and you live in the home, then you can't work over 40 hours a week. I'm sorry, what? That's called discrimination. That's a violation of his civil rights. I don't think so. Because you're trying to pocket the rest of his money because he gets 90 hours a week. You can sell that shit somewhere else because I'm not buying. Okay. So that's something else I reported because that's illegal. You can't violate someone's civil rights and their ability to live, free from constraint because you want to pocket half their money, which is what they're doing. And telling people that was not legal either. And then telling the people you have to use a certain system called the EV system. Well, if you live in the home and you're related, you don't have to use that. Well, how about they falsified Matthew's plan of care? It was just renewed. They put on there that he didn't live at home. How about that? That he lives. It says other. This is just renewed. Did you know that he was going to be other? Because he's in Florida. Florida Parish's mental health facility or for disabled adults. Well, why would you select other? And then have my phone number incorrect. Had that he didn't have any relative working for him. His brother works for him. I record every phone call every time the case manager calls me. I got it all on audio and video. So like if we did a FaceTime or whatever, this is retaliation. And every time I confronted them with it, they reduced my kids' hours, and it's all noted. So like they're in a lot of trouble because of that, because you can't do that. That is a freedom when someone reports an illegal activity, they're allegedly supposed to be protected. Except in Louisiana, you're a target. You become a target. And so I want to know where, like, the PEBT funds, like I told you last time, I had reported that over $300 million is not allocated. That it's stuff like that's my tax money. But I mean, they owe me over $13,000. DCFS does. Then they put allegations against me for SNAP and waiver program fraud. Are you kidding? Like, but that was after, of course, I had already filed complaints, like, almost a year later. It was almost like replica of everything that I had, and none of this happened simultaneously. It happened over a period of a few years. But when my stuff with my uncle came to a head, that's when we kind of snowballed, like everything. So I want to know where our federal agencies are, why they're not stepping up and holding our states accountable for the things that they're not doing and they're supposed to be doing. Like I have filled out reports, I have done the protocol, I have emailed, I have called, and what's the point if you're not going to be able to get any action on the other end of the phone? I don't.
Well, the thing is, you need to go above them. You need to go to the federal level. So follow CAPTA. Follow the way that the Child Abuse Prevention.
I did. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So you need to get into that higher level, because what happens is the federal government dumps all this money into the state level. The state takes that money and does whatever they will. They disperse it as they will. If people start learning that these states are doing these things and this is how we've got to try to start hitting them in the pockets. It's people like you need to start reporting at a federal level. Call your senators, call your congressmen, not the local state people. We're talking about whoever is your state. I'm sure you already have, and they're probably all in on it too, where your uncle is so high. But I mean, that's just it. Drive yourself to Washington and explain this stuff. I'm
going to have to at this point. Like, that's how I feel. Right. It's funny you said that, because literally that's legitimately how I feel.
We need to get justice for you, because you're not the only one that's going through this. So we need people.
This has to stop, though.
The federal Senate.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Have you looked up your congressional members? All your federal level.
Yes.
Have you tried reaching out to any of them?
Yes.
No avail.
And when your uncle is like best friends with the governor, and both the past governor and then the one coming into office, like, and remember,
they're pretty rough. They're pretty rough.
He had cases in front of him, so he didn't want to rock the boat.
Right.
He should have recused. The attorney general had a responsibility to recuse himself. Actually, that was his responsibility, to recuse himself, to not evaluate my case at all, and to hand it off to another. You can hand it to a different state, to have another state.
Well, Texas. And I just texted Yancey, and he says, have you shoot him a text message, and he'll give you all the time tomorrow to talk to you because he will help you figure out a game plan.
I'm tired, and like I have a lot going on with my health right now. I'm sorry, I have a cramp on my foot. I have a lot going on with my health right now, and
when you get your babies back, get the hell out of Dodge.
I have my girls, right, and they showed up at my house the other day, and like, can we come into your house? I'm like, no. Do you have a warrant? No. I said, no, you're not going to violate my Fourth Amendment right. I think not. Well, can we see Peyton? No, you can't see Peyton because she's resting. So you don't have a right to see my kid. Like, who are you? And then this is funny. I heard you talk about warrants earlier. And when I asked her about that, she says, do you know that we don't do warrants? Well, actually, no, I didn't know that. But thank you for that audio. Didn't know that because you took my kid out of here without a warrant and took my kid out of here without a judiciary order. In December 2000.
Well, the police department should have to have both. I mean, I know that.
You're right. The police department. You're correct. So the police department the police in Louisiana can remove the child without a judicial order. Okay, but a social worker or a CPS worker cannot remove the kid without a judicial order. Like they have to have a judicial order, right? So she didn't have a judicial order. I have a manager on audio recording telling me she didn't have a judicial order, that she was just talking to her manager. And then she's fired. They fired her. So, I mean, there's so much falsification and perjury. Like she's got my address from 8 years ago. Apparently she went there and that's where she saw me, which is not true, clearly. And then she went with everyone at the same exact time. And then her boss is noted to be literally coaching her about Munchausen's by proxy, to say I have Munchausen's by proxy. I'm like, if I had Munchausen's by proxy, I would send Peyton to school so she could get sick. That's literally the definition of Munchausen's by proxy. I'm like, she's homebound, so she does not get sick. It's just the stuff that they did was so immensely corrupt, and it was coaching, and it was just illegal. And so, but this is not just me. It's not just me. This is happening to. This is people everywhere. This is happening to. But this entire system needs to be abolished. Like, I don't know why, other than money, that it hasn't been wiped out.
That's what it's all about. It's all about money.
Yeah, and disabled kids bring in like 5 times as much.
They bring in quite a bit.
Yeah, they do.
And it's awful.
I just need someone to hear me, and I need someone to help. Like
I knew I brought Melissa in for a reason. Melissa knows everybody and anybody. And hopefully this thing with Yancey will take off for you and help you out. Hopefully it's
that would be
in the
helpful.
But Ashley, I want to keep in touch with you, and I want you to keep coming back here and reporting to us what's going on, because you need to be. I mean, this is awful what's happening to you, but like you're willing to come out and step out and talk in front of people and say that this stuff is happening, and we need everybody to hear that, because you're not alone in this. There's a lot of other people out there that this is happening to, but just nobody believes
right.
them.
But they want you to be silent. Do you understand that? Like when they have that power over you, it what's done in darkness. Well, that's just going to stay in darkness, right? Well, eventually it will come to the light. But if you have to do the opposite of what they're expecting you to do, because the whole point is for them to be able to get away with it. Screw that. When the head over the Public Defender's Board on audio told me, you got 2 choices. You can stop trying to expose corruption, or you have a 0% chance of getting your kids back. Now you have a choice to make. You can be right, or you can have your children back. Which is it?
Well, I heard that somewhere else before.
Okay, I played that on Facebook. I had my kids back within 3 days. He sits on the same board as the judge, that the sister-in-law of the governor. Okay, don't play games with me, dude. Okay, no, you're not gonna sit there and so he knew. So basically, I'm right. He said, "Do I want to be right, or do I want my kids back?" So I'm right. That's what you just said. That came out of his mouth. Okay, so this is wrong, and people need also to understand. This is something else I want to implore. People know this is going on. They can be a whistleblower, and they can be protected. They can call in anonymously to a whistleblower hotline. I put my stuff on TikTok with the identification. It's fraud. It's the fraud for the OIG, for the federal OIG, with the case number, in order to report this. Okay, there's people who they know about my case. They know I'm being targeted. I mean, my God, I had the general counsel for DCFS and they had roundtable discussions about our case. Okay. the people are afraid to come forward because look what they're doing to me. Can you imagine somebody sitting on going, oh my God, look what they're doing to this woman? Can you imagine if I go forward, what they're going to do to me? But you would be protected, okay? It can be anonymous. I just need people to step forward and be brave enough to do that, because if we're not, like, we're just going to be subject to their wrath. We're going to be subject to their control, and I'm just not going to do it. I'm sorry. It's just not in my blood. It's not in my DNA. I'm sorry.
Well,
Guys,
I speak out about the stuff that happens in my state, especially in my case. And at this point, my youngest two have been held hostage by the state with no real court order for come May, it'll be 2 years. And they've not even been deemed dependent. We've never had the hearing.
Why don't you have your kid back? Why don't you show up and get your kid?
Because they keep continuing the hearing. They've been continuing
No.
for 2 years.
No, you don't hear me. There's no order. That means
Because
that's your kid.
shelter,
There's no order.
which by the Supreme Court of our state expires after 6 months. But we're trying to get, because we got a de novo off the old judge who was related to the GAL. He used to be the attorney for the department, all kinds of corruption.
Oh my God. We have the same life. I swear to God.
Yeah, well, I got a new judge under a de novo. I'm in front of a circuit judge. So everyone keeps continuing the case, and the judge doesn't realize how old this case is because it's not been in front of
Object. Then object to it. Tell them object to the continuance.
Well,
you have a right. That's your Sixth Amendment right.
Here's
A
the
speedy
thing.
trial.
If this judge don't give the kids back, we have no choice but to go up to the federal court, because after the de novo, it goes back to the original judge, who will undo everything that that the other judge might do in our benefit. And that's why we're trying to sit here and quietly be calm when we actually have all of our federal papers drafted. And we're
You just need to get the judge recused. Did you get the judge recused?
here quietly waiting to get in front of this new judge to hopefully see if it gets the kids home.
Did you get the judge recused? The other judge you're afraid it'll go back to?
No, he refused to give over the transcript because he directly threatened me on the bench and told me he'd make sure I never see my kids again.
Did you report him to the Judiciary Commission? Report him to the Judiciary Commission.
No, I am going to report him. I have the.
Do that. They will get those transcripts, honey. They'll get
I
them.
don't need them to get them. I got my own.
No, I'm saying they will, but they will.
I don't
The
need
judiciary-
those transcripts. See, if I get those transcripts,
No, not for you. Not for you. For them to be able to.
I got them.
They'll just bar him.
I recorded the entire hearing. I transcribed them myself. But no, anyways, I've got all that. And the thing is, we need the circuit judge to be on our side. But I've got the paperwork for the complaint ready. I don't want to attack the one judge until we're within a day of being in front of the other judge, because I don't want the one judge to try to alienate the other judge. So we're literally sitting here twiddling our thumbs. I'm supposed to go to court on January 9th. Got continued to the 23rd. 2 days later, it got continued out to March 14th. I was just told by the department's attorney that he's going to have to continue it out again. So
I thought they can only continue so many times. They can only continue so many times.
No. You need to get my phone number.
I've
Girl.
had
Yeah.
14 continuations.
Yeah,
No.
that's bullshit. Yeah,
there's
no
a
way.
There's a legal time frame. If they
Hold on.
exceed
Hold on.
those time frames.
I understand how illegal it is, and I understand all the rules they're breaking. Currently, we're sitting here intentionally twiddling our thumbs because we already have the federal paperwork drafted.
I get it.
We're just waiting to file.
I mean, I filed 5 motions that were all ignored. They didn't even acknowledge the motions I filed. So I get it. Okay. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, here's the deal. You want to be able to say you did it, because even if they did not acknowledge it, if they do what was wrong, that's on them. But you want to make sure you follow protocol. So I would be filing motion to dismiss summary judgment immediately based off of they have bypassed their lawfully allowed time for whether it's the adjudication, the answer hearing, whatever it is you're going for.
Oh, you want to hear the biggest funny ha-ha of the whole case? When we had the hearings that got de novo, okay, when the department got up and testified, they said there's absolutely zero allegations against me nor my husband. That our only involvement was a child in need of services petition when the state of Michigan ordered me to put my daughter on some type of counseling or something to try to help, because she came down.
That is none of their business. You have a 14th right to parent your child without government involvement.
Right, but I actually had to go to the court because that was the only way to get her to do it.
All right, guys, we are way past our time. I want to thank everybody for coming in. See, this is another example. Nothing wrong. What happened here in any of these cases? Nothing at all. This is why we need to find justice.
They're selling our children. They're literally selling our kids.
Absolutely, because with no allegations, they said that they don't want to get mine back just because they met their time statute. So
this is it, people. This is real. This is really happening. Herbert, you got anything else to say, buddy, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, to the young lady's son being on talking phone, and that seems how the law enforcement got involved.
Well, he doesn't actually have friends. They don't really know him very well. I mean, they know him. They know he has a disability, but
they don't allow them to come into the home and take the child.
No, it does. It does.
By the policeman's terms, then is what he's saying. They have the right that way. Oh, we lost him here.
Hey, Ashley, I put my cell number down there in the private. Oh, and he responded twice. He actually told me, he says, absolutely, have you call him. He'll give you all the information you need. And
oh my God, thank you so much. That would be a huge help.
We're going to wrap this up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming on tonight. This was great. I love you ladies so much, and I will see you guys again very shortly for sure. Thank you, Ashley. And Melissa, I'll talk to you very shortly too. Thank you so much. Bye. Herbert. Woo.
Yeah, man.
That was fire in there, man. Those two girls, they know what they're talking about. That's like a legal discussion just going on and on. It's great, man. Those girls are awesome.
Yeah.
But that's real legal. This is what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, as that was going, are we still on with them?
We're still on. We're still on here. Yeah, they're not with us.
No.
But I was just giving you
okay. Now, listen. In one sense, that was a runaway train, but it's not your fault. I couldn't think of a way of getting you in there edgewise.
Hey, you know what? But they're here. You know what? But they're here for our listeners, right? They're here for the people that are listening, and hopefully, someone got some good information out of that.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So it wasn't a monologue. This new lady introduced her situation, but I tell you the truth, as I'm listening to her, she was all over the map, baby. You notice how I went back to the kid on the phone?
Yeah.
I mean,
she's got so much. She's got so much to say, in so much little time. We got to give her a little bit more time. But Herbert, I'm going to cut us off because we're at 1 hour and 12, 13. They're going to cut me short. So I'll be in touch, Herbert. Call me when you get home.
I'll call you on the phone. I'm going to call you on the telephone in about 10 minutes.
Sounds good, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, everybody. This is it. A Friday night here. The phones are blowing up. The people are calling. Everybody's got something to say. It's chaos sometimes, but hey, being in the child protection services is chaos. It's upsetting. It sucks. I guess that's all I got. We will see everybody back here on Monday. Same time. We're going to work out some quirks so that we're here on 8 o'clock for real, like we're supposed to be. That's up to me and some technology things. I guess that's about what I got. Remember, you can check out abolishcps.com. That's a good way to check it, to see what else we got going on over the weekend. Everything you need there is linked to it. I don't know. CPS Punisher out, guys. Take care.